Alright guys, today we're going to be tying the eyelash minnow. Now this fly I'm going to make articulated, so I'm going to be using some size 6 B10S stinger hooks for the back hook. And then for the front hook I'll be using some Moonlit size number 4 hooks. These are the ML411. If you guys want to check them out, I'll have a link below in the description, and that link should save you about 15% off at checkout. Then for the tail we're going to be using some black marabou. And then for the body we'll be using some green and black chenille. So we've got our black chenille right there, and then we got our green chenille right there. And then we're going to be twisting it together for that body. Then we're going to be using some dumbbell eyes, just some red ones. And then we'll be using this, let's see, this is the Voodoo Streamer Dub from Fulfilling Mill. But we just got some black with some green flash in there. Laser dub works really well for this too. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to be starting the fly off with some white GSP thread. You can use black on this, but I'm just going to paint it black with a Sharpie, just because I don't have any black GSP thread. So we're going to start by just adding on a nice thread base, and we're going to work that all the way to the back of the hook, securing nice, secure wraps. Snip that off. Then it's time to add in the tail. So we're going to select our marabou. I like to try to find a nice fluffy piece just so it gets a lot of movement in the water. That one looks pretty good right there. And then one thing I like to do too is I like to go and pluck out the stem, just because the stem is on the thicker side, and so it's going to kind of restrict that movement. Then I slide my fingers up to the tips, and then I'm going to pull down any fibers that I don't need, and then I can just rip those off. And this is going to help make the fly so it's not too bulky. Now I'm going to tie it in. We're going to make it just a little longer than the shank of the hook. It's about right there. So we'll do a loose wrap, another loose wrap, and then we'll tighten that down. And then I might pull that, make that just a tad bit smaller. And right there looks pretty good. And then we're just going to secure all that. And snip it off. Now if you guys saw the winter fly fishing streamer video that I made, this is actually the same fly that Manoli caught that really nice brown trout on. Okay, next we're going to add in our green and black chenille. I've just got this twisted together. So I'm just going to tie that into the back. I'm going to leave a little bit of space from that marabou, just so the taper doesn't go too far back. Just like that. And then we're going to start wrapping that up. And we're going to wrap it from the back to the eye of the hook. And then as I'm wrapping it, I'm just folding the fibers back so nothing's getting trapped underneath. Okay, now we got that to the front. We're just going to secure that down with our thread, making sure we don't trap any fibers. And then we're just going to snip that off. And then fluff everything up, making sure nothing's trapped underneath. Then we'll fold it back, and then we'll just really kind of crank on it to secure it. Then we're going to whip finish. And then we snip off our thread. Next, I'm going to take a black Sharpie, just because I'm using white thread. I just like to take a Sharpie and just dab that up with the Sharpie, kind of just filling in that thread so that it matches the fly a bit more. If you guys have black thread, you don't need to worry about this part. Okay, then add on a little bit of UV glue. And then we'll take our light and we'll cure it. Okay, and that makes up the back of the fly. So for the front hook, we're using those size number 4 Moonlit hooks. I really do like these hooks. These things are razor sharp. And this company's from, it's a small company up in Idaho. And they're making some pretty good stuff. They do rods, hooks. If you guys need any fly tying material too, their website has a ton of it on there. And that discount link will work for everything on their website. So yeah, check it out. I'll have that link down in the description. Moonlit's been a big supporter of this channel, and so yeah, if you guys want to help support this channel, help support the people that are supporting me. There we have it. Now we're going to start with our GSP thread again, and we're just going to wrap that from the front all the way to the back and snip off that tag end. Now it's time to add on that dumbbell eye. You can use whatever size dumbbell eyes you want. I'm using kind of like a medium size one. But if you're fishing a lot of deep pools, you can add on a heavier one. It's just kind of personal preference. I'm going to add that on, do a few wraps to secure it, cross wrap it a couple times, and then I'm just going to slide that underneath. If you want it to ride a hook up, you can put it on top like this, but I like to have it just down below. I like it to ride right side up. And then I'm just going to go around, back and forth on this, just adding in those wraps to help hold it. Making sure it's lined up properly. And then I'm going to go around it like this, do a few, and then you can really crank on that. And that's going to tighten all those wraps we did. And then we'll just make sure that's all lined up where I want it. Okay, and there we have it. All right, work it to the back of the hook, and then we're going to use some wire. I guess I forgot to mention this at the start of the video, but we will be using some wire for the articulation. You can also use backing, or just any nylon braid will work too. If you guys are using wire, this is the stuff I'm using. This is just some, pretty much just bite guard. But yeah, it works perfect for these articulations. Okay, now we're going to take our tail that we made, and we're just going to run some wire through it. Now this is for the articulation. And then I ran 2 beads right there. I like to use black beads if I have them, but I ran out, so I'm just going to use some orange for now. But then we got the 2 tag ends right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lay the tail on there on the side of the hook. And we're going to do a couple loose wraps to kind of hold that in where we want it. And then we can grab these and we can pull it and size it up right to where we want. I'm going to do it about right there. And then we're going to do some nice tight wraps to secure that. And then we're going to keep working it all the way up to the front. And then put some just really tight ones on there. The reason we're doing it tight is we just don't want it to pull out. And then I like to fold this underneath the dumbbell eyes. And then some tight wraps right there as well. And then we can snip off that excess. Okay. Now just more tight wraps to secure it, making sure that ain't going anywhere. Alrighty, next thing I'm going to do, and this is kind of really the only tricky part of this fly, and it's really not too bad. So we're going to take our black and green chenille, and I've already got this pretty twisted, but we're just going to tie this in about right there. Secure it, and then work it to the very back. Okay, now this is where it gets just a little bit tricky. We're going to take this chenille, and we're just going to twist this up really, really tight. We're going to kind of make this into like a little bit of a rope to kind of seal off this back end so it kind of connects better, just because there's such a large gap from the front hook to the back hook, and these fibers aren't the longest. So we're going to make that really, really tight, plucking out any fibers that might get trapped. And then we're going to take our finger, grab it, fold it over, and then let that back end twist together like that. And see how that just kind of sticks out? Now that's going to help connect it to the back of the hook. Then we're just going to take our thread, and once we get that sized up to where we want it, so see how we pretty much just made like a nice thick rope in the back? We're just going to tie that in. And what that does is it helps make it so it kind of joins the back fly to the front fly. Now that I got that secured, work that to the front, and then all we're going to do is just wrap it all the way up to the front of the hook. But yeah, like I said, that's really the only like tricky part of the fly, but it's really not too bad. Okay, and then now we'll just do a secure and wrap. I usually do 2 loose ones, and then just crank it nice and tight. And then throw it to the front of the hook, and then we'll snip off the excess. Fluff up any fibers. And there we have it. Alright, now we're going to use this Voodoo streamer dub. This is Jet Black Pearl. It's pretty much just some longer fiber dubbing with some green flash in there. Laser dub also works really good for this. But yeah, we're just going to take a nice good thick piece. And then we're going to kind of pull it and stack it. Pull it and stack it. And that's just to kind of get the fibers even. And then we're going to put it on top, and we're going to kind of work our thumb and work it down around the fly. Make it nice and messy, because we're trying to kind of fill in that space right behind the dumbbell eyes. And then we'll do a loose wrap to secure it, and one more to hold it. Then we're going to go underneath the fly, and then we're going to do a little bit less dubbing. I like to use less on the bottom just so it doesn't get in the way of the point of the hook. If you get it too thick on the bottom, then you can miss hook sets because there's just not enough clearance on the hook. So same thing, we'll just pull the fibers, stack them, make sure they're even, lay it on there, put your thumb, make it nice and messy on the hook shank. And then one wrap to hold it, two wraps to secure it. And then we'll just fold those fibers back. And we'll work it to the front of the dumbbell eyes, just like that. Next, we're going to pretty much just repeat the same process, but we're doing it on the front side of the dumbbell eyes. So we'll stack those fibers up, doing it a little bit thicker on the top, thinner on the bottom. Okay, now we're just going to add some more, just to kind of fill up the front of that hook. And we'll add that thinner strand on the bottom. And work those fibers back. Now what we're going to do is we got it all the way to the front of the eye of the hook. We're going to build up a bit of a thread dam to hold those fibers back. We're just going to start cranking on it. Then I'm going to whip finish. And then we'll just snip it. And then I'm going to take a black Sharpie just to kind of fill in that white thread. If you guys use black thread, you don't need to worry about this. I mostly buy all my thread white just because then you can take whatever color Sharpie you want and then touch it up however you need it. Especially when I do streamers, because streamers are pretty bulky, and thread color doesn't matter quite as much. Now I'm going to add on some UV glue, so fold those fibers back a little bit. And we'll just go around coating that fly. And then we'll just cure it. Alright, and there we have it, an eyelash minnow. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to check out more, check these videos out right here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.